This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for How to Super Age with Elise Marie Collins. And Elise, we've had so many different conversations over the last couple of years, and I have to tell you, listeners are really getting the information they need. So you have a wonderful guest on today. So tell us a little bit about her.
Well, I've known Elizabeth through business circles. I'm going to introduce her formally, but she's wonderful and she's got a lot of great information. And I'm happy to call her a friend. So I'm going to introduce Elizabeth Magallon Fleury is a serial entrepreneur and her business, Life's Encore Planning, it's her fourth business. So she loves to create, she loves to be out there in the business world, giving people what they really need, because that's what I think business serial entrepreneurs love to serve and love to help the world. And she's offering so much to populations that are aging, and she's going to tell us a little bit more, but I'm going to give you a little bit more about her. She's married to a very supportive husband, Steve, and she has a son, Aiden, who's 22, and she now lives in Reno, Nevada. I know she used to live in the Bay Area, and sometimes I kind of think of her as closer by, but yesterday she told me she was paddling out in Lake Tahoe, and I'm like, oh yeah, wow, you're living the life. She's also an animal lover, and her first business was Pawsitively Purrfect, which was a pet sitting service in San Jose, California. In 2019, she launched Life's Encore Planning after supporting and caring for family and friends. Life's Encore Planning has a commitment to successful aging and to serving older adults and those who support them to stay in their homes for as long as possible, safely and with peace of mind. And this is so important because we know that the majority of older adults want to stay in their homes, but there's so many things that we don't think of until we get there. We don't think of it till we actually encounter it. And I know as somebody who is a caregiver and living with my parents who are living in their home, there's been many surprises along the way. And we're going to have a special focus on technology today because Elizabeth has been researching and investigating and putting into practice how we can use technology to further leverage, this ability to stay in the home. And also, there's some myths about technology that I'm sure we'll unpack. Is there anything else you want to add to that intro, Elizabeth?
No, that was wonderful, and I consider you a friend as well. It was so nice meeting you, I think back in 2020 on Zoom, and we've had the pleasure of meeting each other in person. So glad to
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah, Elizabeth loves good food, so we've had some good meals together. And I also love that you've got those books above your head. And I notice Super Ager's there. So thank you so much for shout out to Super Ager. That's my book. In case you're new to this podcast, I wrote a book called Super Ager, and this podcast further delves into how to super age. So let's talk about technology. Do you think older adults are afraid of using technology or not good at it, or any of the above?
No, you know what? No, I think that's a myth, unfortunately, that older adults are, afraid to use technology or they can't adapt to learning about new technology. The real problem is that the technology is not marketed to them and it's not designed for them. So designers of this new technology, they're not including them in the design process to understand their specific needs and or wants when it comes to technology. So that's really, the thing. And when we're talking about being they're tech adverse, they don't want to take it on, no, I mean, coming through, here we go back to the pandemic, but a lot of them, they had no choice, And for those who were already using technology, they increased their use of technology. And those who weren't were like, I'm going to learn how to use this. If this is the only way that I can talk to my friends and family and stay connected, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I heard two really important things in what you just said. One is necessity or desire to use technology. We've got to have a good reason, because I mean, let's face it, if there's not a reason, then why should we use it anyway? Why should we use anything for that matter? We need to have a reason, and it has to have a purpose in our life. And then the other thing was inclusion. We're not including, it's like those negative message, and that this could be this is a whole other topic, but those negative messages that older adults get about technology, and that they don't know how to use it. They just kind of throw up their hands a lot unless there's a necessity. And I find that very disheartening, and it upsets me a lot. And I know when I want to say work with my parents, because it's like I would do this with anyone. If somebody doesn't know how, like, okay, let's say sending a photo. My dad was very proud, maybe like a week or two ago, he said, you won't believe it, but I actually sent so and so a photo. and, and my dad is 95. And I said, I mean, and not that, any 95-year-old, I'm sure there's people that are 105 that send photos from their iPhone. But what I would do is, if he said, he needs something, he needs to send a photo, or maybe he needs to do something for his insurance or for sending something to his grandchildren, I would have him look at the phone and say, like, how do you think you do it? And then sometimes he would get it, sometimes he wouldn't. But and sometimes, honestly, I'm impatient. I'm like, I just want to do it for him. But I would try to approach it patiently, like, what do you think you do? And most people can figure it out. But what happens a lot is older adults, or anybody for that matter, I get frustrated. I'm like, I don't know how to do this, forget it. But the older adults have that negative messaging a lot, that they're not technological, that their grandchildren should do it. And that's just not true. It's not true at all. And I could go on, but I'm going to let you speak more, because I don't want to.
Oh,
I want you
no.
to.
Well, too. And what do we see in media? They're, older adults, they're portrayed as being frustrated or resistant to adopting the technology, but it's ageist, right? It's just purely ageist, and it's incorrect. Like you said, I get frustrated with trying to do something new with technology. I'm like, I got the 22-year-old. Hey, Aiden, come, so we all do. It doesn't matter what our age is. It's, how much is it a necessity for us to learn it at that moment? Is there something easier, or can I have someone else do it? But that's universal. That has nothing to do with someone's age and being an older adult. So, and the thing is that these technology companies and marketers need to realize that our longevity is increasing. So if they're leaving out one of the fastest growing markets of people to use their technology, they're just shooting themselves in their foot with that. That's why, they need to be inclusive with older adults in the design and the marketing, because it affects their bottom line. So it only behooves them to do it as well. And adults in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond are using multiple digital tools, not even just one, but they're using multiple ones. So, I just hope, and I have seen, going to the Consumer Electronics Show for the last 2 years, a huge increase in visibility with designers of how they're designing their products more with older adults in mind, including them into the design, and asking them questions, and saying, oh, this is specifically designed for an older adult, which is great. But what we really need to do is look at universal design, right? For any age. So
Well,
they're getting there, but they have a ways to go.
and technology has not been a universal design, even
No.
right from the beginning. I mean,
No.
I used to teach Microsoft Office when it was supposedly, very easy to learn. And when you would tell somebody, take the mouse and click, they couldn't understand what you were talking about. You had to constantly show them. But I think the message that technology is not for older adults goes back to the late 80s and 90s. We
Mhm.
haven't changed our dialogue. And those of us who learned it in the 80s and 90s, we're now in our 60s, 70s, and 80s. So we
Mhm.
are using technology.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and coming from the Bay Area and Elise being in the Bay Area, I mean, it's a young tech, I mean, the average age is like 28 or something. It's ridiculous, right? That what's a 28-year-old going to know what an older adult needs to
Right.
support them in using their product?
Yeah. Well, there may be a few that are savvy to that, but yeah, in general, there's a lot of non-inclusion of universal design and universal access to technology. I kind of want to just ask a question because I'm afraid we're not going to get to any uses of technology. I'm what I want to ask you, and then maybe we can always come back to this topic, but I feel like we could just be pounding away. Um, is there any in the work that you do, is there any technology right now that we could be using that we're not using? I mean, generally to help older adults live in their homes. Um, something like I heard of something, I can give as an example, but I want to know from you, is there any technology that you're using with your clients or that you're just like, this is the greatest thing, it's going to really help, or, something that's being missed?
Well, I think what's missed is the vast array of options that older adults have for them to stay in their homes. And really the biggest one to start with is always some type of safety monitoring measure, right? An Apple Watch, any type of wearable. And, there are so many options out there now. You can have a necklace, you can wear a watch. If you're in your home all the time and you're not really going out a lot, then you don't have to wear anything. There can be multiple devices in your homes. And I like to always make sure that people understand this doesn't mean that there's a camera on you, right? Because people want their privacy. And what's nice now is there's so many different options so that when I'm dealing with my clients and I get to know them, I understand what their level of comfort is with some type of monitoring. And then we can find the appropriate tech for them. And so that's monitoring them themselves. And then also there is the tech enabled safety features, say on our appliances in our home, that we can add to keep us safe, such as faucets and toilets, and you can add, or induction stoves if you're looking to do some remodeling, or just adding an alarm to a stove that will alert the person in the home and or their caregiver, hey, it's been on a while, or it will automatically shut off. So it's
Okay.
I always go straight to how can we keep them safe first, and then add in the other items that will help it just them to manipulate and manage their home easier. But safety is always number one.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, my mom is not cooking anymore, but she loves to cook. And I mean, I'm guilty of like leaving burners on and faucets on, and what I noticed too with my parents, one thing, I could hear the faucet on a little better than them as they're hearing. Maybe they weren't wearing their hearing aids and the faucet was running for like a long time. I'm like, hey, Dad, did you notice? So yeah, those are great things that, the faucets, well, we could flood if you have something clogging up the sink. And then the burner, that was kind of scary. But I have to admit, I've always been kind of more of a nutty professor space cadet. I've left the burner on at all ages, but
There
some,
again,
yeah,
back to universal design, it
yeah,
can happen to any of us. Or if you have kids in the house or animals that can hit a knob or, walk across something. This is all really universal design that would make all of our lives easier.
yeah. But falling is a really important one, and having something, and falling always happens unexpectedly. I work with people who are caregivers also in the community, and I know somebody that one of my clients worked with did have a fall. I mean, her client had a fall and didn't have a wearable, and it took some time. Now she does have a wearable to make sure that, and she lives in a small place by herself, but still, if you're on the ground and you're not able to get up, as a yoga teacher, we go through different health things, but I know I teach people, if they have that physical ability, how to get up off the ground.
Right. I know, because a lot of times people will say, "Oh, well, have my cell phone." Well, if you fall, that can go flying across the room. Then what are you
And you live
going to do?
alone, wearable is critical. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I have a question that came to mind about other countries. I was just listening to something about Japan. The population of Japan, the birth rate is so low and so many more older adults. Are they doing a better job? They, meaning the country of Japan, the government, anybody doing a better job? Or have you noticed that? Is that something that's come under you might not be under your radar, but
No, actually, it is, because I'm involved with people who are working in Asia. And there was a Japan conference, and then they just had one in, I believe it was April, in Singapore. Now, Japan themselves, they're doing the best when it comes to technology, and being forward thinking with it, out of necessity, really, because they don't have the population. They're and they're much more open to it because they respect their elders. Elders are held in high regard in that country. So when thinking of designing and how we're going to take care of them, they're more proactive instead of reactive. Unfortunately, here in the United States and with my clients are coming to me because they're being reactive. Something has happened and now they go, "Oh my goodness, what do we do now?" Instead of trying to plan ahead for these things. But yeah, Japan's doing a great job, and America needs to be looking at them for how they're doing things. And I'm seeing it as well.
yeah, well, that's great to know, because that at least gives us a kind of a model, instead of, because sometimes we can't really envision a better future, and, because of the old stereotypes, because of what's happened in the past. So I'm really pleased to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
Do you think
Um,
ageism has something, the word ageism has something to do with the fact that we don't want to think ahead to that time? That we want to believe, hey, I'm living longer than my parents, my grandparents, I'm really vital. It's never going to happen to me.
That's absolutely our problem here in America. "Hey,
yeah.
I'm doing great. I'm no fine, no problem," until it's not. And it's not like if you're a solo ager, you need it even more because you're on your own and you want to have things like that in place for yourself. And then I find as well with couples that, oh, we're doing great, we're doing great. Well, what happens if one of you isn't? So it's not just affecting that one person, it's affecting both of you.
Right.
And so now you're not only looking at supporting that person, but also making it easier for the caregiver, the person who's taking care of them, because it's hard on them. And having items and your home set up for aging helps both. And unfortunately, our ageism in this country, I will still hear all the time, well, if I start thinking about it, it's going to bring it about.
Right.
Yes, no, it's a great point. And unfortunately, it is a major thing that's affecting us here in the United States.
Yeah, it's what I hear is so interesting because on the one hand, a good friend of mine just came back from being at the Modern Elder Academy and yeah, the Chip Conley thing, if you know what that is.
Yes.
Yeah. And they talk a lot about extending the middle, which is like, middle age is not just, it's just we have a longer health span. But what I also hear is with that, we still have to, we're able to function at a high level for longer, many of us, but we still have to anticipate going down the road and what is the next, what is the next turn? What is the next thing that's going to happen? And if we're not, it's kind of like almost like yeah, we're driving down the road and we got to look for those signs ahead. So
Right. And the thing is, as well, is these things are not easy.
no.
Some of them, all of a sudden you have mobility issues and you can't get in and out of your front door. You can't get in and out of your bathroom. These things take time to set up. And I think as well, part of the problem is people only think about these ugly silver grab bars in their showers and bathrooms. That this is where design is taking off. You walk in to houses now that have set up, you would have no idea that these items are actually set up to help someone who's having mobility issues
Yeah.
because they're beautifully designed, they're completely incorporated. So, your home doesn't need to scream, ah, I'm having a problem, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, yeah. And sometimes even things like uh a faucet that's easy to turn on and off and squirt because, hands, we lose our grip strength and what kind of designs do they have? Like I remember looking several years ago with my parents and I'm like, a lot of these are hard to manage and there's nothing again designed for, to make it easier on your hands or what would be good for somebody who's doesn't have that grip strength of a 25-year-old male,
Right.
Never had that.
Exactly.
I've never had that.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, turn knobs. No, we need flip, or there's so many sensor things as well that will open and close.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot of options and people just don't know what's out there. And so they get frustrated or they just don't think they have any other option. And then, they get frustrated and then it's hard, right? When you're used to doing something and now all of a sudden something that you didn't even think of, now you really have to think about it and worry that there's no other options. It can be defeating and it doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to share a technology that I heard about yesterday or a way to use technology that I thought was very interesting. And then I do have a question about, how can we be, how can we thrive and be successful with all that we've talked about today? But first, I just want to mention, I was listening to this podcast for USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology, where I also got a master's. And there's a professor there, and she studies caregiving, and she wants to use technology. She's I don't know her age, but she became a caregiver when she was a teenager because her mom had her when she was 43 and then was diagnosed with dementia. So she has a very interesting perspective. And one of the things she's working on is something called reminiscence therapy, and helping those that are suffering from dementia to, think about their happy memories so they can remember. And then she sort of maps it. I don't know exactly how her technology works, but she's doing a lot of work with, helping caregivers to get support, and helping the caregivers to deliver a more satisfying, care experience, because dementia can be so isolating. Caring for someone with dementia, in all its different forms. And so I thought that was interesting. She also was talking about, how we're not using technology to support caregivers, because the health system sure isn't. And, we could find out so much about what the caregiver's needs are just by having apps and questions, and then aggregating all that data. And she compared it, I thought was interesting, to, when you have a child, you get so much information, like, I think there was a time when this wasn't true, but I mean, having a child in their 20s, like you, and I know we've all had children, they give you information, here's the different stages of development, here's this, and here's what you do, here's how you get support. But there's nothing like that for caregiving. Yet caregivers are there, 1 out of 3 people, I don't know the statistics, but there's so many of us are caregivers, and they're just kind of getting left out of the societal equation. So
Yes.
that was my rant about it.
No, that's great, because when it comes to dementia, we don't know, right? We don't have it, and we don't know what they're feeling, what they're thinking, especially because there's also, so many different types, right? And people just kind of lump it all into one. Well, no, there's different types. So you need to understand what that type of diagnosis they have, because treating them based on their diagnosis will be different, right? And I was just pulling my form here because I can't think of the name of this company. I was just at Mary Furlong's longevity conference in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, and this company down in, I think she's in San Diego, as a matter of fact, so down there in USC neck of the woods.
Yeah.
She has goggles that a caregiver would put on, and it helps them to see what it's like to have dementia and to walk around. And so then people come away with a better understanding, because that's the thing, we're trying to understand, but we don't have the tools. So now there are tools coming out with technology to help us better understand, so then we can care for them better. Because two, I think there's not, everybody just sees dementia, it's done, we can't do anything about it. No, we don't have great drugs, but with technology, with diet, with exercise, we can really help these people to live a more productive life. And I think technology is a great way to do it. I can't wait to hear, you're going to have to share that podcast with me.
Okay.
There's a number of people who are on Facebook specifically who are documenting their journey with either their father, their mother, their spouse. And I know some people are getting a bad rap for it, but I think they are doing a wonderful service for many of us, because we're starting to see that there are some very high points in their days, and there are some low points. We also see how difficult it is for the caregiver. And so hopefully this is going to make us a little more aware and advance some of the information we need. But one of the big things I see is that we have to stop blaming the caregiver for the poor care that they're giving their spouse, their family, whoever it is. And I hear a lot of that, and it makes me very sad.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I heard an interview with somebody who was a social media caregiver, I don't know what to call her. And I really was touched by that because she said, I just started documenting what was happening because I was so isolated, and it was just that was a way for me to kind of reach out and even like integrate the experience, for lack of a better way of
Yeah.
putting it, which totally makes sense because sometimes we can't see what we're going through because we're in the middle of it. But I know from sometimes I'll put something on social media. I'm like, oh, now I understand it better. Not because I have to post it on social media, but just like writing something out and then posting a picture will help me kind of process. So yeah, that's very interesting. I think it's very humanizing to see what it's like. I mean, why are we criticizing this? But we're not criticizing how many social influencers are moms, showing like their day to day.
Exactly.
And we've stopped
Right.
mom shaming, but we're maybe caregiving shaming. So yeah, there we go.
Yes. And for something, when it comes to like dementia, which we don't have a great understanding of, and then on top of it, you have a caregiver who's just trying to do their best with what they know, with the tools that they have. Right. So no shaming. We're all just trying to figure this out to support our loved one, our client, and those who take care of them.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, Elizabeth, I know you talk about successful aging and aging well. How can we come up with a better model, or what is your idea about this? Because, we have this time kind of now in the middle where maybe we're feeling great, we're feeling good, and like nothing can stop us now and until it does. So how can we be better at this?
Well, I think, we all need to change our attitude about aging, first of all. And if we work on trying to understand ageism, see it out there, call it out, and not use it on ourselves as well. We, if we have positive views of aging, that can add 7.5 years to our lives. If we have a negative, you're shortening your life with that. And that's from Rebecca Levy. I'm reading her book right now, and it's great. But two, spending time intergenerational, that helps us as well, right? Our kids learn from it, we learn from it, we see what's possibly coming ahead so we can be more open to it. And with so my three pillars for successful aging are legacy, thriving in place, and longevity, and looking at each one of those. And legacy is not just about money. It's about what you want to leave for others. And that has many aspects. I don't like to call it aging in place. I like to call it thriving in place, or just thriving. We do that. We need to do that until the end. And it is absolutely possible. And if you plan for it and have a positive attitude, you can really do that. And longevity. We have this longevity, we have this opportunity, but it's not a given. So we need to take care of ourselves, understand the ways with diet, again, diet, exercise, and being social. We are social beings and animals. We need to be out there and be social. So all three of those things, it's so easy as we're coming through our 20s, 30s, our 40s. We have all these benchmarks that we are attaining. And then all of a sudden the kids leave, or, we're at the height of our career, and then we don't have any more benchmarks. In reality, that we all look at as a society. We need to put those out there. We don't need to stop trying things, right? Snowboarding in our 50s and surfing in our 50s. And it doesn't mean, oh, I've hit this certain age and now I can't do things. No, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and a limiting belief that you don't need to have.
Yeah, yeah. We want to keep those brain cells. We want to keep that neurogenesis, meaning growing more brain cells. And that happens when we try new things. And if we don't, yeah, we will just kind of stay where we're at with our brain cells. Yeah. Any other questions, Karen, or thoughts? This has been
No,
really
today's subject is really important to me because another podcast that I do with Karen Oates, we actually this past week were talking about when do we become aware and start planning for our future. And like you said, we planned for our future when we were in high school to go to college, to get a degree, to get a job. We planned for our kids, we planned for weddings, you plan for all these things, but so many get to that, whatever that age is, and they stop planning. And I know I was very, very lucky because I had parents who were in their late 70s, early 80s, who decided to start a business just because they wanted to do something. And at the time, my first thought was, why would you do this? You're 80 years old. Enjoy your life. Well, they were. They loved every minute of what they were doing. And it hit me that, you know what? I don't have to sit still. I can keep finding things that I like to do. And I think that's the message that you're giving, Elizabeth and Elise, that we give out on your program all the time. Keep planning, make those plans and prepare. There's nothing wrong with being prepared.
I love that. I was going to add a story from Super Ager, which is my mentor he's from India, and he went up into the Spice Mountains where there's a lot of people that they don't know. I mean, the people know how old they are, but they don't have a birth certificate. So he interviewed one man who was 118. I'm just saying they're 118 because everybody in the village knows when they were born. And, I think some Western demographers would be like, well, we don't see a birth certificate. You're making this up. But I mean, who's going to make that stuff up? I'm sorry. But anyway, so 118-year-old man, he's living on his own. He's a solo ager, and he has these walking sticks that he uses, that he finds in, kind of this rural jungle type area. So he's using his tools. He's got his tools. He teaches, he has a legacy. He teaches the youth in the village all his different things that he's learned over his life. And he was planning for the future. When my professor interviewed him, he was 118, but he was planning that he was going to do some ceremonies for his granddaughter when she turned, when she became a teenager. So that would be like, he would be 130. And I don't know if he lived that long, but it was just the idea that he was constantly planning. He was very positive, but he knew his limitations. And I think that's a beautiful, and it was very, I think the other thing that I learned from my professor's studies is it's not self-conscious. Like the self-consciousness is the ageism that we've been talking about. A lot of it's coming from, this is what we think in our society, where there's other places, and we touched on them, like Japan, other cultures that they just don't have those ideas, and they're not in people's brains, so to speak. So the more we can remove them and just live life as you're living, every day is a gift. We got our walking sticks, we got our tools and technology, and we're looking forward to that next, family milestone, personal milestone, whatever it is. Anything you'd like to
Yes.
add, Elizabeth?
Well, we may have limitations for specific things, but they don't need to limit our entire lives and being.
Yeah, yeah. Love that.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for being a great guest, and we'll definitely, this is your second time, right, on the
Yes.
Super Age. Okay, well, we'll definitely have to have you, just reach out anytime you find out about some new breakthrough in technology, and we'll do another recording.
That sounds great. Well, thanks for reaching out, and I'm glad I was able to make it happen today. And it was wonderful seeing both of you ladies again.
Well,
Thank you.
Elizabeth. Have a great day, everybody, and
You
keep
too.
living.
Keep living.